It's an issue that has dogged the Menino administration for the 20 years he has held office. Violence, crime, and a prevalent drug culture in some of Boston's poorest neighborhoods.
The police need that partnership. Folks come forward with information to help them fight the crimes in our neighborhood. That's what we need, is that partnership renewed in the communities throughout Boston.
For the last 7 years, Ed Davis has stood by Menino as police commissioner, assuring those most affected by violent crime that he was doing his best to solve those cases.
We've made a lot of strides in the last 24 hours. There are some people saying we're about to make an arrest. That's not the case, but the investigation's going well. As you can see, there's a lot of activity right here on this street.
Now, though, with the resignation of Ed Davis and a new mayoral administration about to take over, the issue falls to one of the two finalists in the mayoral contest, Marty Walsh or John Connolly. WGBH News caught up with Marty Walsh as he walked the Boston Common, asking how he would tackle the issue.
I think one of the big things that we have to do, long-term strategy, is keep our kids in school. I think we have a high number of dropouts that drop out of high school, and when they drop out of high school, they end up on the street because they don't have an education. They have really no place to turn. They turn to drugs, alcohol, violence, or all three in many cases.
Meanwhile, rival candidate John Connolly said his solution was also school-based.
That is the ultimate link between great schools and safe and healthy neighborhoods, part of a holistic plan. Obviously, other pieces that have to be involved, mental health, substance abuse, how we deal with trauma. But there is no doubt that great schools have a direct link to safe neighborhoods.
I'm joined now by Jamal Crawford, editor of the Blackstonian website. Welcome, Jamal, as always. Of course, I'm familiar with the website Blackstonian, but just to recap for people who aren't familiar, you've been keeping track of the shootings in certain communities since the Boston Marathon bombings. You're up to about 141 shootings, and that includes fatalities and other. And your point really is that more attention is paid to crimes like the Boston Marathon bombing, maybe the Amy Lord shooting in South Boston, than crimes in urban neighborhoods.
Right. There's a certain I think, tone that is set by this that kind of says that, those are the anomalies, those are the ones that deserve attention. And what people in my community go through is just kind of, that's the regular violence. And, you people do that to yourselves. And, you just kind of have to learn how to deal with it because it's been going on for quite some time. And unfortunately, with the 20-year reign of the mayor now coming to a close, the departure of Ed Davis, I think that this presents a new opportunity to get some new ears listening. And that's what both of them will have to do, is listen, because that hasn't been done by the previous administration in the mayor's office or in the commissioner's office. And I'm hoping that people will be open to what community has for recommendations to stop the violence, since we are the ones most affected.
Well, they would both disagree with that statement, that they haven't been listening. Both of them have said, that they've gone into the communities and they're open and they want people to start talking. But you're running for office yourself. You're running for city council. When you look at the plans so far put forward by John Connolly and Marty Walsh, do you see a distinction? Both of them are talking about education and, making maybe voc schools, tie-ins, let's say, with regular schools, so people could get a chance to get an education, get a degree faster, which would put people on the track to get a job, changing prison treatments and doing an education element there. Do you think that's the key?
I mean, that's certainly part of it. And in my community, of course, the main issues are violence, education, and employment. These two mayoral candidates now, both Connolly and Walsh, kind of represent education on the one hand and employment on the other via the union. So it'll be interesting to see how those things kind of connect. But in terms of being listened to, I think that, schools is, of course, that's tantamount. With or without the violence, we need quality schools across the board for everybody. Education is the key and passport to the future. But more so than that, with employment as well. But there's also some stuff that we need in the schools, anti-violence curriculum, conflict resolution, that type of thing, as I think both of them have alluded to, mental health, substance abuse issues, that a lot of other things that factor into that, of course, the poverty. And, no one mayor, no one proposal is going to, fix all of this. But we got to roll up our sleeves, stay diligent, and really do the hard work in a multitude of variables that contribute to the violence.
All right, want to bring into the discussion now Peter Kadzis, who's WGBH's political analyst. Peter, you've been following all these candidates and what their platforms are. A lot of them, there's not a lot of overlap here. Marty Walsh has gone out on a limb and said he wants to, get a handle on guns, and maybe he'll talk to the neighbors to the north and see about strengthening
foreign policy.
See about strengthening gun control laws in New Hampshire. But do you think either one of them has a realistic grasp on this?
Well, they're realistic, but they don't control the operational aspect of this. It's no mistake that both of them gravitate towards the soft side of social policy, and that's very important. But the biggest thing they're going to do, one of them, is name a new police commissioner. And the police commissioner has the dirty and tough job of dealing with the Boston Patrolmen's Union, which has been, in the past anyway, a major obstacle to reform in terms of inside procedures. It took years to overhaul the way the homicide department investigated murders, way longer than it should have. And the third issue is money. We need more vigorous community policing. And that's going to be a tough sell in the city because it's more expensive. But I think the only humane, the only justifiable thing is we need to spend more money for more cops on the street in a more intelligent way in Roxbury, Mattapan, and Dorchester.
Do you see one candidate or another, Jamal, with a policy that seems to be headed in the right direction as far as you're concerned, one over the other, or are you still sorting that out?
Yeah, not as of yet, but the thing that I like about both of them is that they've already shown willingness to listen. And while you say Menino and Davis would dispute that fact, I know that myself and others have been trying to get a community meeting, public meeting with them for 5 years now, and they've declined it at every opportunity. So John Connolly and Marty Walsh are at least open to have the discussion, to bring these other ideas in. And as Peter said, yes, the choice of the new commissioner is going to be tantamount, but also, as Menino said in that clip, there's a problem there with the relationship between the community and the Boston Police Department, which leads to not as much cooperation as there should be. In order to repair that, we have to have a public and a very deep conversation about the race relations and the relationship between communities of color and the Boston Police Department, and we're going to have to dig up some painful history to get through it.
Yeah, Jamal raises a very important point. I mean, both the mayor and Davis, and I happen to think that Commissioner Davis has done a better job than Jamal thinks. But where I agree with him 100% is both the mayor and the police commissioner have been too controlling. They want to control the environment in which they meet the community. Now, that may be politically wise, but in terms of winning community trust, that's not the way to go. One thing whoever is elected mayor will have going for himself is that there is no track record there. They get to start from zero, and they do get to build on what successes there are. But the powers that be, let's just put it that way, don't want to talk about the real crime rates, the murder clearance rate, the violence rate. Listen, I hate to say it, but one reason murders are down in the city is because of improvements in emergency room medicine that have come as a result of the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. That's a hell of a way to reduce the murder rate.
Do you think it's important that the new police commissioner be a person of color?
Well, I do. I mean, it's something we've championed for a long time. And what's always striking to me is when you go down south and you could say Mississippi, black mayor, Mississippi, black commissioner. But up here in good old Boston up north, we've had neither. And only one woman commissioner, Kathleen O'Toole, of course. But yeah, I believe a commissioner who is a woman, a person of color, a younger person possibly. But obviously all of that, nothing trumps experience. So not color over experience. We need somebody who's good at this job. And if they are a person of color, black, Latino, or a female, that would definitely please me.
One of the things that both Mayor Menino and Ed Davis really genuinely tried to do was to get people to feel confident about coming forward with information. It's been a constant problem. Was that ineffective, Jamal, or was it unrealistic?
Well, I can only speak to that to say that when I watched the community meeting that took place after Amy Lord's case, the Boston Police Department, mayor, other politicians went there, and they were very sympathetic and empathetic with that community. in meetings that I've been in my community, it's very accusatory. So it's more like, you guys, if you would only, tell us what's going on, and we could solve these crimes. And I have to disagree with that. They put the text line out there and the anonymous texting and all that, but any dealings with the police in my community are less than pleasant. Well, not any. Most of them are less than pleasant. Whether you're trying to put in a commendation, get a permit, pay a ticket, or whatever, the interaction just seems to be lackluster.
The most important time after a murder is 36 hours afterwards. If the police don't get a jump start on their investigation, then the community begins to think they're never going to find the guy, and as a result, they become reluctant to come forward. And the answer here is simple. You need more bodies on the street more quickly.
All right, Peter Kadzis, Jamal Crawford, thanks so much.